On my way to learning how to paint like this, I went on a journey through art school and the world of fine art as it was defined in 1986 at Indiana University. I had absorbed my art survey courses as an undergraduate so well at Memphis State University that I wanted to make art in every style I was exposed to, from Van Eyck to Paul Klee to Klaus Ohlenberg. Except I wanted to do everything at the same time. Influences were thrown together in a blender. No one coming out of any fine arts program in America was making anything that looked like this. What was this? IU was not merely an art school, it was one of the best in 1986, especially its painting program, to which I sought admission on the advisement of my mentor instructor at Memphis State University. This instructor, as it happened, had a daughter in the graduate painting program at Indiana University, and she was on the select committee for incoming graduates. In my first year of graduate school, I attempted to be the same artist I had been at Memphis State University. This was also my first year of living away from home, so I had a lot of growing up to do in the social dimension due to my unbeknownst autism. This meant I floundered during my first year of graduate study because I could not concentrate. I was on track to receive no funding for my second year of study, but I rallied at term's end with an impressive pre-oral exam, and I ended up being offered a drawing instructorship for the following year. I was determined to turn things around when I returned home to Memphis over that summer of 1987. I ended up creating 4 paintings and 3 works on paper. When I returned to school in late August, IU students and faculty were amazed by my radical transformation. I was now thinking like an oil painter. Unfortunately for me, James McGarrell, as an instructor, had left IU in the year before I came into the program, and Robert Barnes would leave on sabbatical during my second year, so he did not get to see my progress after the summer of 1987. Both these men would be seen as figurative abstract painters today. I am not sure what affinity they shared while at Indiana University, but the resemblance in their late aesthetics, with McGarrell being somewhat more lurid in color, is uncanny. My teachers were always better as teachers than I was at being their student. However, I regard Robert Barnes' influence on me to be profound in retrospect. My style was still something of a mashup, as best seen in these collage acrylic paintings I made that summer. Here are the 2 best paintings I made over the summer of 1987, both of which I sold to IU professors prior to graduation. I wish I had understood at the time why these paintings were better than the other ones, but that is the nature of these things when one is a student. I sold the best paintings from my MFA graduate student days. At the time, I painted them, and I destroyed everything else. To be honest, those paintings were not very good compared to how I paint now. Also, in case there's any confusion, I brought my talent stack, including my imagination, with me when I came to IU. IU did not give me my talent. What I was not when I arrived at Indiana University was an oil painter. Prior to my graduate study, I thought oil paintings were only pictures in books. These are not pictures. These are oil paintings. One can compare them to sculptures, where every fleck of stone that winds up in the floor is only put there to enhance what remains behind on the canvas. As an undergraduate, I had worked over acrylic and house paint with thin layers of oil paint. When I used acrylic gesso as an underpriming, I used it sparingly, giving the cotton canvas a sandpaper quality. The oil medium was too quickly absorbed, leaving behind dull and lifeless oil pigment. At Indiana University, I first used a calcium carbonate oil primer, and later, after I graduated, I switched to a lead-based foundation, which had been preferred by IU graduates. This hard barrier repelled the oil and preserved much of the brushwork. I also experimented with rapid set, which was a fast-drying, toxic-smelling medium. It had a varnish-like quality and made the paint sticky and brittle. As an undergraduate, I thought horizontally about my paintings. They were built up like quilts, with differing mediums abutting one another in the same painting. In graduate school, as I stuck to oil painting exclusively, my paintings became more vertically integrated, where I sometimes carved into the underlying paint. My paint skin was still thin, but because of the rapid set, it dried so fast that there was little time to smooth out and blend the paint, thus introducing an unintended textured quality to my paintings of this time. My second year of painting at IU was a mixed bag. My program was only a 2-year program, and you were expected to put together a portfolio by Christmas so you could apply for teaching positions. I need not have bothered on this score. In fact, I did not make my best paintings until after my portfolio was shot and mailed off to faculty search committees. Had IU's program been a 3-year program, I would have benefited from it. I continued in my IU style of painting after I graduated in 1988 and through my first one-man show in Chicago in 1990. Mostly, however, I spent the 1990s making alternative comics because I lived too far away from Chicago to be continuously spurred on by that vibrant community. This is the death rattle of Tchaikovsky, finished in 1989. It was the last piece to go into my Chicago show. After that show, I went into a kind of depression. I painted only 5 paintings in the following 7 years. 3 of which were large monster portraits, like Tchaikovsky. I worked at a snail's pace, beginning in 1990 with Epidermis and proceeding through Shadow of the Earwig, which was the largest of these paintings, to Les Voitures d'un Buffoon Flambé in 1997. I was, little by little, building on my craft as a painter. I did not realize this improvement until I made this easel painting in 1998. I regard this as the first painting of my mature style, some 10 years after graduating from IU. Though art school is a long way back in my history, I still think of myself as a fine arts artist, though few in that community to the present day would claim me.